Black twins confronted by cops in a southern bar, unaware one is a Navy captain and the other leads an elite SEAL unit. "Hey fellas, might be best if you head out before things get messy." Officer Brandon Keller's voice sliced through the twang of country music humming through the bar's worn-out speakers. He and two other officers had casually boxed in the booth where the twins sat. It was a Friday night at Murphy's Saloon, a known off-duty hangout spot for local police. The lighting was low, but the tension was rising faster than the room temperature. Jamal and Jordan Reed, both 34, had just taken a sip of their drinks when the trio stepped up. "Something off?" Jamal asked, eyes still on his bottle, voice level like a still lake. His body language was too chill for someone being cornered. Officer Keller didn't seem to catch it, but his partner, Officer Ryan Tate, narrowed his eyes. "The issue is, this ain't really the kind of place for folks like you. We're trying to keep things peaceful around here." Jordan turned his head slowly toward Keller. His stare was calm, but carried the weight of 1,000 repetitions. "Trouble? Man, we're just sipping our drinks in peace." The youngest officer, Luke Dawson, clearly tipsy, let out a dry laugh. "You really not getting it? This spot is ours, and we don't exactly welcome strangers with open arms." Some of the regulars peeked over nervously, then quickly returned to their drinks. Most knew better than to get involved when badges blurred into personal grudges. 3 off-duty officers facing 2 black men who had apparently violated some unspoken rule of presence. Jamal and Jordan exchanged a glance that lasted less than a second. But that look said everything. Shared history, silent codes, a lifetime of navigating threats dressed as authority. What Keller couldn't know was that this quiet wasn't surrender. It was analysis. Jamal took stock like a tactician. Keller's right flank was exposed. Tate's hand hovered too close to his weapon for someone supposedly off the clock. And Luke? Swaying like he could barely stay upright, his badge clearly didn't come with a breathalyzer. Jordan had already clocked all 3 security cameras. He marked the fastest route to the emergency exit. And noticed the owner, Carla, nervously wiping the same glass for over a minute behind the bar. "We're not here to cause any problems," Jamal finally said, his voice like a still drumbeat. "Let us finish our drinks and we'll be on our way. No heat, no mess." "Nah." Keller slammed his palm down on the table hard enough to rattle the bottles. "You're leaving now, and you're gonna be grateful I'm feeling generous today." In a flash, Jamal's mind jumped back to when he was 15. He and Jordan were walking home from school when 2 cops pulled up beside them out of nowhere. "Did you steal those backpacks?" one had asked, like 2 black teenagers carrying books was suspicious by default. They kept their heads down that day, swallowing the heat of humiliation deep in their chests. But they weren't boys anymore. "You know," Jordan said quietly, pulling out his wallet in an intentionally slow and clear motion. "Might be smart to check your IDs too, just to be sure you're really with the department." Keller's face flushed red. "You trying to be funny?" Tate placed a steadying hand on Keller's shoulder. "Let it go, man. They're leaving." Something about the way the twins held themselves was setting off quiet alarms in his gut. They weren't scared. They were sure. Luke, though, was too drunk to notice the shift. "You know what your problem is?" he slurred, jabbing a shaky finger at Jordan. "You think you can waltz in here and act like you belong? We run this place, you hear me?" "This place," Jamal echoed, and for the first time, there was an edge in his voice. Interesting choice of words. Keller shoved him. "On your feet. Now." The whole bar froze. Even the music seemed to hesitate. Behind the counter, Carla fumbled a glass and quietly reached for her phone. Jamal and Jordan stood together, rising in perfect sync. Their movements had the fluidity of muscle memory, almost like a drill. Same height, same solid frame that their relaxed clothing couldn't hide. "We're going," Jamal said, voice cool as ice. "But you'll wish you handled this differently." Keller let out a laugh, loud and ugly. "Oh yeah? We'll see who's sorry when I pat you down outside. Pretty sure I'll find something that doesn't look too legal." David looked him in the eye. "You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" It wasn't a threat. It sounded more like regret. "I don't care if you're royalty back in Africa," Luke snapped. "Right here, you're nobodies." The brothers walked toward the exit, the 3 officers tailing them closely. Rick Tate felt a cold wave crawl up his back. He couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way the twins moved. Not rushing. Not afraid. Just precise. When they reached the door, Jamal paused and turned. Last chance. Apologize for the way you just acted. Keller puffed his chest. Or what? Jamal smiled. It wasn't anger. It wasn't pride. It was patience. The patience of someone who's already won before the fight ever starts. Or nothing, Jamal replied calmly. Just figured it was fair to let you know. And as the door swung open and the two brothers stepped out into the dim glow of the parking lot lights, no one inside Murphy's saloon, least of all Officer Brandon Keller, could have guessed that the next 15 minutes would rewrite everything. If this story has you hooked and you want to see what happens when arrogance crashes headfirst into reality, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Because what's about to unfold out there will prove that not everyone who looks vulnerable really is. And some secrets, once revealed, don't just end careers. They burn reputations to ash. The lot outside Murphy's was almost deserted. Only a few rusty pickups and beat-up sedans scattered beneath flickering street lamps. Keller shoved Jamal hard against the hood of a car, the cold steel biting into his back. You know what your kind's problem is? Keller growled, his breath soaked in whiskey. You think you can walk in anywhere like you're on our level. Luke Morrison stumbled around Jordan, his steps unsteady. Bet you've got drugs on you. You always do. He barked out a jagged laugh. We're gonna search every inch of you. Rick Tate hovered nearby, hand still flirting with the grip of his holstered weapon. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. These two didn't fit the usual profile. But the buzz in his head and the pressure from his buddies clouded his better judgment. Jamal stood still against the hood, but his eyes were sharp and moving. He was running calculations. Distance to the wall. Time to neutralize threats. Weak spots. This wasn't new. He had trained for moments like this. Baghdad, 2011. Captain Jamal Reed crouched behind rubble, enemy combatants dead ahead. His unit waited on his word. 3 seconds to act. 3 seconds to decide who lived and who didn't. Hey. Keller slapped the side of his head. I'm talking to you. Watch your mouth, Jordan warned quietly, unmoving. His voice hadn't changed. Still calm. Still level. But the air shifted. Some words don't come back once they're out. Luke shoved him with both hands. Oh yeah? What are you gonna do? Sue me? He raised his arms mockingly. Go ahead. Call the cops. We are the cops, you idiot. Keller started rummaging through Jamal's pockets, rough and deliberate. What do we have here? Wallet. Phone. He tossed them to the ground like trash. Nice phone for someone who probably didn't pay for it, huh? Give that back, Jamal said. Not a plea. A command. The kind of command that usually came from someone with stripes on their chest and silence in the room when they spoke. Keller heard it. And it made him more angry. Oh yeah? And what if I don't? Naval Command Unit, Norfolk, 2018. Commander Jordan Reed inspected his SEAL team. 20 of the most elite warriors alive under his command. Discipline isn't about muscle, he told the new recruits. It's about knowing when to use power and when to hold it like a blade behind your back. Back in the present, Luke fumbled trying to search Jordan, his hands twitching from alcohol and adrenaline. Freeze right there, he barked. But his voice cracked with hesitation. Jordan stood at least 4 inches taller than him, even relaxed his presence filled the space like a storm front. Do you three even realize how many laws you've broken in the last 10 minutes? Jordan asked, calm as ever. Harassment. Assault. Unlawful search with no warrant and no cause. Oh look, Keller scoffed. We've got ourselves a sidewalk attorney. Rick finally broke his silence. That's enough, Brandon. They're leaving. Just let them go. Let it go. Keller turned to him, fire in his eyes. Since when did you start getting soft, Tate? These two need to learn their place. Across the parking lot, Carla stood behind the saloon window, phone raised and recording. She'd seen Keller and his crew do this more times than she could count. Picking fights with folks who couldn't fight back. But this time felt different. The Reed brothers didn't seem scared. They seemed like they were waiting. You know what I think? Luke was getting louder now, emboldened by what he mistook for compliance. I think you came here looking for a scene. You wanted the spotlight. He jabbed a finger into Jordan's chest. People like you always want to be seen. Jamal and Jordan exchanged that look again. Half a second. Silent. Precise. Anyone with military experience would have recognized it instantly. That wasn't a glance. It was tactical coordination. Years of operations honed that kind of understanding. Keller unhooked his cuffs. You know what? Let's take you in anyway. Suspicious behavior. Failure to comply. Resisting. Jamal turned slowly to face him. We haven't resisted anything. Yet. That word hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Kandahar, 2015. The Reed brothers deployed together for the first time. Jamal had pulled his younger brother close and said, "The trick isn't to be fearless. It's to control your fear. Let them think they've won. Then wait for the moment they drop their guard." Luke stumbled again, swaying like a tree about to snap. You don't get how it works here, do you? This is our city. Our turf. And you? You're just visitors. Guests? Jordan tilted his head, voice like a razor hidden in velvet. Or were you about to use a different word? Luke's face turned crimson. I was gonna say you're a problem. A problem that needs handling. Keller popped the cuffs open. Hands behind your back. Now. No, Jamal said. Just that. Nothing more. 3 whole seconds of silence followed. Keller blinked. As if unsure he'd heard right. What did you just say? I said, no. Jamal crossed his arms slowly, firmly. We haven't broken any laws. We're not getting cuffed. And if you lay a hand on me again, you'll regret it more than anything you've done in your life. The boldness of the words froze Keller in place. People didn't talk to him like that. Especially not people he didn't respect. Is that a threat? His voice pitched up a level. Did you just threaten a police officer? No, Jordan said, stepping in. He's warning you. Big difference. Rick Tate backed up a step. His instincts were screaming now. Brandon, seriously. Something's off. We need to leave. But Keller was past reason. His authority had been challenged in public. No. They're not walking away. They're going to learn what happens when you don't respect the badge. He grabbed his radio. I'm calling backup. We're doing this by the book now. The book, Jamal echoed with a laugh that carried zero humor. You don't even know what the book is. Luke lunged toward Jordan's arm, but the commander pivoted just slightly. So smooth it looked like a coincidence. So precise it felt like choreography. His hand met nothing but air. But Rick saw it. And he knew what that movement meant. That was combat. Not instinct. Training. Brandon, he said sharply. Call it off. Now. Shut up, Tate. Inside the bar, the lights went dark. Carlo was locking up. In a few minutes, that parking lot was going to witness something no one could ever unsee. Jamal glanced down at his watch. A matte black Luminox Seal edition. Discreet. But unmistakable to anyone who knew what it meant. You have exactly 60 seconds to apologize and walk away. Keller laughed in his face. Or what? Or you'll find out, Jordan answered. That there are very real consequences for corrupt cops who harass high-ranking military personnel. The words dropped like a live charge. Keller blinked. Military. High-ranking. He started to put it together. But before he could react, Luke made the worst possible decision. Fueled by alcohol and pure arrogance, he drew his baton. Enough talk, he slurred, stepping forward. And that's when it all shifted. What those 3 officers didn't know was that the next 30 seconds would be recorded. That the footage would go viral. That their careers, and the entire network of corruption behind them, were about to go up in flames. Because Jamal and Jordan Reed weren't just 2 guys who could handle themselves. They were tactical weapons in human form. Trained. Controlled. Waiting for the legal moment when self-defense became undeniable. Luke's baton whipped through the air. But it never landed. Jordan tilted his head 2 centimeters left. No more. No less. A movement so sharp, so efficient it looked almost lazy. Luke overstepped, off balance, stumbling forward like a rookie in his first bar fight. Before Keller or Tate could react, Jamal had his phone out, documenting the moment. Unprovoked assault by an armed officer, he said to the camera. Attempted strike with a blunt weapon on an unarmed civilian. Turn that thing off. Keller lunged for the phone. But Jamal had already stepped back twice, maintaining flawless distance and control. Interesting, Jordan said coolly, pulling out his own phone. Now we've got two officers attempting to illegally seize private property while in the act of assault. That was the moment Rick Tate finally saw the full picture. Their posture. The way they moved. How they read each other's body language without saying a word. Their total awareness of every detail around them. This wasn't random. These men were military. And not just any branch. Special operations. Elite. Brandon, Rick said sharply, grabbing his partner's arm. You need to stop. Right now. Why? Keller snapped, shaking him off. They're recording? Good. Let the world see how we handle criminals who resist. But everything was about to shift. From the back door of the saloon, Carla stepped outside. Her phone was raised too. Already called the county sheriff, she said loudly. And I've sent the footage to 3 news outlets in the region. You're done, Carla, Keller growled. And your bar's getting a surprise health inspection tomorrow. It won't. A woman's voice cut through the night like a siren. A black woman stepped from a dark sedan parked nearby. Tailored suit. Confident stride. Badge out. Because I'm Assistant District Attorney Lisa Monroe. And I just witnessed 3 off-duty officers commit at least 7 criminal offenses. Keller's face drained to a ghostly pale. Lisa walked forward, calm and composed, counting on her fingers. Harassment. Intimidation. Attempted assault. Abuse of authority. Official misconduct. Want me to keep going? They started it, Luke blurted, pointing frantically at the brothers. They provoked us. In the bar. Oh, really? Lisa raised a brow. Because the footage I just received shows something very different. You 3 initiating the conflict. And escalating it after being warned multiple times. Jordan calmly tucked away his phone, arms folded. A subtle smile on his face. Prosecutor Monroe. Been a while. Commander Reed, she nodded with recognition in her voice. Then she turned to Jamal. Captain Reed. The silence that followed could have dropped a feather. Rick closed his eyes. The weight of the disaster finally crashing down. Keller blinked hard. Still trying to catch up. Wait, what? Jamal stepped forward. And his entire presence shifted. No longer avoiding the fight. Now commanding the field. Captain Jamal Reed, United States Army. Ranger Battalion. Currently an instructor at West Point. Jordan joined him. Commander Jordan Reed. United States Navy SEALs. Team 6. On leave after 3 combat deployments in the Middle East. The weight of reality dropped on Keller like a collapsing building. He hadn't just harassed 2 random civilians. He had tried to intimidate and unlawfully detain 2 of the most highly trained military officers in the country. On video. With witnesses. In public. That doesn't change anything, he stammered, trying to salvage authority. You still didn't identify yourselves as. We're not required to identify ourselves to civilians, Jamal cut in, his voice pure command now. And definitely not when being illegally harassed by drunk, off-duty cops acting like street thugs. Rick backed away, hands raised in surrender. Look, this was just a misunderstanding. We can all walk away from this, no harm done. Lisa's voice sliced clean through the air. 3 armed, intoxicated police officers harassed 2 decorated military officers, attempted to unlawfully detain them, and committed physical assault. You think that just disappears? Luke was sweating now, his face flushed and panicked. We didn't know. If we'd known they were military. So it would have been fine if they were just civilians? Jordan tilted his head. Is that what you're saying? That it's okay to intimidate and assault people? As long as they're not trained to fight back? The question lingered like smoke after an explosion. Killer tried one last desperate angle. You have no proof. It's your word against ours. And there's 3 of us. Jamal's smile returned. But it was sharp now. Cold. Prosecutor, how many videos do you have so far? Lisa tapped her tablet without looking up. 4 angles. Carla started recording before you even left the bar. The Reed brothers have full footage from outside. And I've got the last 8 minutes from my own phone. Oh, Jordan added casually, raising his wrist. Our watches record too. Audio and video. Standard security protocol for special ops in civilian zones. Killer looked like he'd been hit in the chest. Lisa kept scrolling. And I've already got 3 eyewitnesses from inside the bar ready to testify. Plus it turns out Murphy still has functioning security cameras. Rick lowered himself onto the curb, head in his hands. It was over. Not just tonight. Everything. His badge. His future. Gone. What do you want? Killer asked finally, his voice cracking. Money? You want a payout? An apology? I'll say whatever you want me to say. What we want, Jamal said, slow and steady, is justice. Not just for us. For every single person you've treated like this over the years. Lisa nodded firmly. Because I bet my entire career that this isn't the first time. Tell me, Brandon. How many? How many illegal stops? How many bogus charges? How many lives did you crush just because you could? Luke was crying now. Real tears streaming down his bright red face. My career's over. My family's gonna disown me. You should have thought about that earlier, Jordan replied. Before you decided to play God with people's lives. People who didn't look like you. That's when the red and blue lights swept across the lot. A sheriff's cruiser rolled in, tires crunching the gravel. 2 deputies stepped out. Rick recognized one of them. A veteran who had never liked Keller's crew. Prosecutor Monroe? The deputy asked. We got your call. Are these the ones? They are, Lisa confirmed. 3 counts of harassment. Attempted aggravated assault. Abuse of authority. Conduct unbecoming of a public official. And that's just the beginning. As Rick, Keller, and Luke were handcuffed and led toward the cruisers, the irony hung heavy in the air. Keller turned back one last time, eyes locked on the Reed brothers. How? He asked, genuinely baffled. How did you set this up? Jamal glanced at Jordan, the kind of look only siblings with battlefield history could decode in a blink. Then he faced Keller again. We didn't set up anything. You did it all yourselves. We just made sure someone was watching. As the squad cars began to close their doors around the disgraced officers, Carla stepped closer to the brothers. Thank you, she said quietly. These guys have been terrorizing folks for years. No one ever had the guts to stand up to them. How many? Jordan asked. How many other people? Carla paused, thinking. Dozens. Maybe hundreds over time. Always the same targets. Anyone they saw is different. Jamal nodded slowly. His jaw tightened. What had started as a moment of self-defense had become something much bigger. Lisa closed her tablet with a snap. You 2 are free to go. I'll need formal statements tomorrow. But for tonight. She paused. Anything else you want to tell me about these 3? The brothers shared another glance. Silent but loud in meaning. Maybe, Jamal said at last. But first, we need to make some calls. Almost on cue, Keller's phone buzzed. Then Rick's. Then Luke's. A chain reaction of digital doom. What the? Keller unlocked his screen. The blood drained from his face. The video had gone viral. Hashtag #CorruptCopsExposed was already trending. 2.3 million views in under 3 hours. Every second caught from multiple angles. The bullying in the bar. The threats in the lot. The attempted violence. Their names. Their badge numbers. Every frame timestamped and publicly stamped with shame. Oh my God, Luke muttered from inside the patrol car, watching his future vanish. The comments were ruthless. Other victims were already chiming in. The police department's switchboard was being slammed. Lisa handed her tablet to Jamal. 17 victims have come forward so far. Same officers. Same stories. Some with proof. Killer tried to speak through the cruiser window. We can fix this. Enough, barked the deputy. You're all suspended without pay while the federal investigation begins. And Keller? Your entire record is being reopened. Every arrest. Every report. 8 years under the microscope. Rick cried silently. His wife had already seen the footage. She had filed for divorce. The mortgage. His son's college tuition. All tied to a paycheck that just disappeared. Jordan crossed his arms, unreadable. You had plenty of chances. Every warning ignored. Every line crossed. Captain Reed, the deputy said, approaching Jamal with a firm step. We got a call from the Pentagon. They want your full report. There may be additional action taken against any officer who's ever targeted active military personnel. Keller vomited inside the squad car. By sunrise, 7 major news outlets had picked up the story. And the first domino in a long chain of corruption had finally fallen. By midday, the mayor had issued a full-scale overhaul of the department. By nightfall, the 3 disgraced officers were facing a total of 23 criminal charges. Carla reopened the bar that same evening. Now a line stretched down the block. Everyone wanted a drink at the place where justice had finally caught up with power. Jamal and Jordan watched the news from their hotel room. 18 calls from the Pentagon, Jamal said, scrolling through his phone. They want us testifying on operational procedures. And 3 invitations to speak on police accountability, Jordan added. Online, the comments flooded in. Past victims shared their stories. Their relief. Justice had taken its time, but it had arrived. At the back of the county jail, Keller sat in silence, staring at the wall. Career gone. Respect gone. Future obliterated. Why? Because he had judged 2 men by the color of their skin. The same system he had abused for years was now methodically dismantling everything he had built. And as millions watched his collapse, one truth echoed again and again. Arrogance always comes with a price. Always. 6 months later. Brandon Keller was serving coffee at a roadside diner. Sentenced to 3 years probation, he had lost everything. No badge. No pension. No house. No family. Luke now worked in a call center, selling insurance. His voice shook every time he had to say his full name. Rick became a night shift security guard at a supermarket. He avoided mirrors. The police department? Transformed. 17 officers dismissed. 43 old cases reopened. 8 innocent people fully exonerated and compensated. Jamal Reed was promoted to major. He now led ethics training programs for law enforcement across 6 states. Respect isn't demanded, he told packed classrooms. It's earned. Jordan took a position at the Pentagon, advising on military-civilian relations. His face appeared on the cover of Time magazine. The commander who helped shift the national conversation on police abuse. Carla expanded her bar to 3 locations. She trained her staff on how to spot and report abuse of power. Silent witnesses are accomplices, the phrase became a national motto. Lisa Monroe? Elected district attorney with 73% of the vote. The first black woman to hold the office. On the final day of his probation, Keller passed a TV screen in the diner. There was Major Jamal Reed, being interviewed. Hate doesn't define who we are, Jamal said calmly. It defines who we choose not to be. Keller switched off the screen. The irony weighed down on him like bricks. He once held all the cards. The badge. The weapon. The system. The Reed brothers only had their dignity. But in the end, they won. Because arrogance always falls to discipline. And prejudice always folds before principle. Those who judge others by appearance always realize too late. They judged the wrong ones. The greatest revenge was never destruction. It was building something so massive, so undeniable, that those who tried to break you became too small to matter. Jamal and Jordan proved it. Keller learned it the hard way. Justice doesn't come in a color. But it always comes with consequences. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel. Because when dignity meets opportunity, even the powerful learn humility. The hard way.